Chapter 15. You never forget news like that, or the day you get it. It happened so long ago, and yet the details are as fresh as the memory of yesterday. It was overcast, unusually cool for that time of year. There had been a stretch where the phone didn't ring and Kelly didn't visit, so I was free to drop in on Crocker. He was as anxious to hear about the outcome of my life's drama as he was to tell me he was still sore from getting scared and tossing himself off the roof at the movies. I think I rode my bike to his house, but I may have walked. Regardless, the bite of the wind made for a slower trek home. Approaching the fence, I could see that we had company. But the car next to ours wasn't the one I wanted to see. It was Gordana's. My initial thought, albeit naive, was that Kelly's broke down and she was somehow able to convince her mother to lend hers. But no, that was me ignoring the possibility that they both came because something awful happened. Ascending the stairs, I could hear crying and hysterics from inside. Halfway through the door, my reflexes almost weren't fast enough to catch Kelly, who threw herself into my arms. "What's going on? What is it?" I pried as she shuddered. "She's gone. She's gone," she hyperventilated into my chest. I lifted her away from the growing puddle on my shirt, fighting to gain traction in the conversation. "What? Who's gone?" "Nan, she left us," she sobbed between shallow breaths. I instantly went numb, knocked on my heels, and down a tunnel where the words echoed, but were incomprehensible. "This is some kind of joke, right? If this is a joke, it's not funny. I'm not laughing." "I'm afraid not, son." Dad spoke for her. He was leaning on the other end of the table, his head hanging low. "She went to sleep and didn't wake up." "But she's waiting for me," my voice cracked, building to weeps. Mom, unable to withstand my pain, covered her mouth as she wailed again, and escorted Lottie out of the kitchen, so as not to further witness my torture. "She's not waiting for you, Lakin. No one's there," he negotiated sensitively. "Don't say that. I have to go back. I promised I would. She can't see the view of the loch from the boat without me, all because you won't take her." I directed anger at Gordana, who was standing nearest the hallway. She wasn't saying or showing much, so I invaded her personal space. I wanted her to be snarky about her rules being broken, or angry at me fishing for guilt. I just wanted her to feel. "Darling, don't," Mom ordered. "No, it's all right," Gordana excused. She knew what I was hunting for and didn't give it. She stayed silent and stone-faced, but as we stared at each other, she was able to turn the tables and weaken me additionally. "She's gotta wake up. She's gotta call," I whimpered, rocking on my heels. Noticing I was collapsing, Dad put a hand out to guide me safely to an empty chair. Kelly ran over and wrapped herself around me, hugging me tightly while we sobbed together. Gordana was patient, allowing us to cry until it was out of our systems, until there was no more water with which to make tears. I cried so hard, each salty drop I tasted was another pounding, aching throb in my forehead. Once we were drained, and the room grew calm again, she turned to Dad and said, "We have an engagement to meet with the lawyer to discuss the will and other proceedings." "I'm sorry, we?" he emphasized hoarsely. "Yes, the four of you may accompany Kalina and I," she clarified. "That's a gracious offer, but why would we impose on such an intimate moment for your family?" Mom sniffled. "It's no imposition at all," she insisted warmly. "It's what she wished." The law office of L.B. Peacock, the Jardine family attorney, was located at the eastern point of the village. Never needing to venture outside the marketplace, it was a part of Ottersborough I had yet to explore. Since most 17-year-olds don't typically require the services of a lawyer, my knowledge of them was limited. All I knew was that this was smaller, more intimate than the practices I'd seen in the city. Tall and slender, Mr. Peacock reminded me of an Ichabod Crane sort, if he'd been around Gilleigh's age. He was timid, softer spoken, but possessed a youthful spirit akin to hers. He was a balding man, but his most striking feature was his beak-like nose, on the tip of which rested his glasses. Looking over top of them, he left his desk and greeted us in the order we filed in. "Gordana, Kalina, condolences. My heart bleeds for you," he said, squeezing their hands. "My sympathies are with you, Mr. Peacock," Kelly spoke. "Losing a friend is equally as horrible." "It certainly is, and so soon after your grandfather. It's a dismaying loss," he agreed mournfully. My parents then caught his eye, and he moved on. "You must be the Adams. It's a pleasure to meet you. A shame it took such a deplorable event." "She mentioned us to you?" Dad asked, floored by the recognition. "Explicitly, especially Lakenear," he replied, firmly grasping my hand. Lottie's way of introducing herself to Mr. Peacock was to outright attack a bowl of Andy's mince he had sitting on his desk. "Charlotte, no, only one," Mom exclaimed, horrified by my sister's gluttony. "That's quite all right," he chuckled, bending over to speak to Lottie as she chewed. "I hear chocolate makes you smile." She showed him teeth covered in brown, and he was delighted. "And there we have it. Take as many as you like." He ushered her to Mom with the bowl and returned to his desk. "Now, to business. As painful as it is, we are gathered here to recite the last will and testament of your mother, grandmother, and friend, Gilleigh Jordan. It's recently been revised, as per her request, and reads as follows. If you're reading this, it means that despite my best efforts to put one over on Old Death, he had other plans for me. By now, I've no doubt moved on and shouldn't worry about what's happening to my body down there. But do not put me in a box and leave me for worm food. I want to be cremated and spread over the loch like Willard was, so we can roam the home we made together. And should the winds allow, maybe we'll find our way back to the home we left behind in Scotland. Ah, how wonderful it would be to return to those rolling green hills. That just leaves the worldly possessions still occupying my stead. To Gordana and Kalina, my heart and soul, I leave any and all money as your inheritance. You'll forgive me for assuming, Gordana, that it's the one thing I have that you'll see value in. While Kalina, I know, will use it wisely even though it's not necessary. For sentimental reasons, you each can take whatever you wish from the house, be it knickknacks, books, dishes, etc. I leave it to you to sort out who gets what amongst yourselves. Please be cordial and understanding in this decision. To the Adams, my dear friends, I find being able to refer to you as such to be an amazing gift. It's a gift I can't easily repay, which is why I've chosen to give you my house and everything in it that won't be claimed by the girls, as it is, for me, the only thing that will truly suffice. Please know that this was not a spontaneous decision, nor was it made as a result of learning about you. Long before that, in the beginning, I was watching Kalina and Laken in the yard, and I saw something in him. There was a hint of curiosity, an admiration, a spark that the place is sorely going to need. Sadly, with Willard's passing, I realized that my family's time was fleeting. As they've gotten older and moved on, they've taken what memories they wished and left the bones. But your family is still young, with time to grow in the memories that you'll make. I'd be honored and proud for you to take it and build upon it to keep the magic alive for generations. In closing, I know you'll mourn and grieve in your own way, but try to remember that I've had a good life. My hope for each of you is that you use what I've given to make the most of yours. Remember to live in love, laugh as often as you can, and fear no leap of faith. Be thankful for what you have, and from the people you meet, be open to learning. You never stop, no matter how old you get. Surely she can't do that. I mean, not really, Dad said. Excuse me. Slumping into a chair with a hand on his chin, expecting a mistake. She's completely within her rights, Mr. Peacock answered, double-checking the instructions. While his scan generated no errors, he donned a congratulatory smile and continued. I typed this up myself as she dictated, and witnessed the signatures in accordance with the terms. It's a legal document. The house is yours. What signatures? Dad challenged, snatching the will off the desk. Mom and Dad conducted their own investigation of the paper, jaws dropping the further down they searched. Well, I'll be damned, he said aloud, reading for himself and finding 3 names printed at the bottom. Gilleigh Thorogood, Gilleigh Jarden, and Gordana Thorogood. You'd sign away your relative's house for us? Mom gaspingly questioned the lady standing at the back of the office. The house is yours. Kelly smiled, quoting the lawyer, then adding, You deserve it, to catching tears on her finger. Mr. Peacock gave us space for gratuitous fellowship before respectfully calling Dad aside. If I may, sir, there's one more thing. Letters for each of the children. She asked that they don't read them until you're settled in. Unlocking a drawer, he produced 2 envelopes, both of which were in Gilleigh's handwriting. Charlotte, piano, and Lakin, typewriter. The funeral was nice and simple, the way she wanted. We kept the speeches short and did our best to stay happy and laughing, but it was difficult. It took days to collect ourselves. Nobody was in a hurry to go back to the end of Inverness Road and the house, but eventually we all took steps toward healing. Oh, for crying out loud, we're late, Dad said as we pulled in on moving day. It was evident the girls had been working hard for hours. There early, Mom pointed out. It's been a draining few days, with lots of social obligations you're not in the mood for. Remember how it was when your mom died? Poor things. They probably wanted to be alone to start off, with how golden silence can be. Look, let's handle our own belongings and stay out of their way unless they ask, okay? In the back seat, Lottie was battling a devil on her shoulder over her letter from Gilleigh. See, she'd been holding on to it since Dad gave them to us earlier that morning, which is a long time for any kid to wait on the unknown. I don't think she could have even read it by herself, but that didn't matter. The imp had her picking at the adhesive on the envelope so that it would accidentally pop open for her to peek at the contents, but she didn't want to earn it like that. She restrained herself to holding it against the window so the sunlight could give an X-ray of the folded paper. You couldn't see much that way either, but it's about the thrill of the mystery, I suppose. She was doing well, but I could tell that she was in need of my help. So, while Mom and Dad were busy unpacking the car of boxes and bags, I recruited her to help me find a place for my plaque. I wish I could tell you more about it, but there's just not much to say. My mind must have gone blank somewhere between the funeral and then, and when I blinked, I had it. We'll call it channeling all my negativity into something positive. Anyway, she found the spot right next to the front door. A little squaring, and we had our first personal touch on the house. The perfect tribute. Welcome to Gilleigh Loch. The family gathered and praised my craft, and it was back to business. We formed an assembly line. Dad and I carried things to the porch, while Mom and Lottie brought them inside to organize and situate. The most attractive room to start in was the study, because that was the room with the piano in it. Here, they ran into Kelly, who was boxing up her granddad's photos and books she wanted, and the books she wanted. "Hello, darling," Mom greeted, ushering in my sister. "You're looking enlivened today." "Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Better anyway. I guess fitting someone's entire life into boxes is my idea of cathartic." She smiled wearily. "Maybe that's because the boxes just contain things, and the honest memories are stored in an infinite space, free of dust," Mom extended, soothing her blissful exhaustion. Kelly exited with her arm out as Lottie put Andy in his box on the piano stool and asked, "Mommy, can we see what's inside my letter yet?" "What did your father say this morning?" Mom reminded her. "To wait until we're settled in," she pouted. Slamming an elbow on the keys added a theme of dreadful boredom. There's gotta be a oh, wait, yes, that might do the trick," Mom pondered, dropping the last of the boxes she had on the floor. She kicked it from spot to spot until it bounced off the furniture and out of the way, and voila, I'm settled. The manner in which she darted across the room made Lottie giggle, and soon Mom was standing her up, stealing her seat, and leaning her against her leg in one fluid motion. Opening the letter, she began. Ahem, let's see here. Dear Charlotte, sometimes when friends have to say goodbye, and they don't know for how long, they give what's called a memento to one another in case they don't see each other again. This is like that. So my gift to you, my little friend, is my piano, on the conditions that you take care of it so it can grow up with you, and that you practice every day. Be sure to serenade Mommy and Daddy with the ditties we learned so you don't forget them, but also don't be afraid to play your own songs from the heart. Promise me that your new house will always have its music. Love, Miss Gilleigh. I was in the foyer listening to Mom read. I realized then that the spectacle was over. The object that was written beneath our names was the subject of the letter. Knowing where the typewriter was kept, I went to the hallway closet and dug it out. A rush of anxiety hit me sitting in private in the sunroom. True, I knew the gift, but what else was she going to say? I mean, these were her last words. My hands were so clammy I bet I sweat clear through the envelope. But I got it open, unfolded, and in a trembling grip, I read, Dear Lakin, I've dreamt often of the day we floated on the loch. Oh, what a grand chapter in the story of life that was. I imagine if it were a real book, for some, it might be placed near the beginning, and for others, like me, it might make for a good ending. Maybe there'd be a sunset to look back on, one with pink and purple skies, I don't know. You're the writer, I'm not, and every serious writer needs a tool. You practically own it already, but I'm running out of uses for it, so it's yours officially. The only thing I ask is that in whatever tales are on your horizon, whether it be Babbitt or something new, take my name out of it. Don't mention it. The house and loch are now yours. Let them be your muse. I know you'll disobey this wish, but I don't need any credit. Giving you this gift is enough for me. It's my way of always being a part of it. Love, Miss Gilleigh. P.S. Look out the window. Might as well have been written at the bottom. I did, and saw Gordana sitting by her lonesome on the bench in the yard. I had wondered where she was, and was not altogether astonished to see her alone, but concern for my well-being dissolved into care for hers. I took that typewriter off my knees and laid it next to the refolded paper on the table. I approached cautiously, respecting the solace within within her isolation. She didn't react to the sound of footsteps, or me physically standing next to her, but from the side view I could see her cheeks were damp. We don't have to talk if you don't want. I'm just going to sit here with you, I said, straddling the edge of the bench. The silence went antagonized, until broken by a deep, depleting exhale that, at its apex, turned into a piercing howl. I wanted to be of some comfort, but I didn't know she'd accept it, so I reacquainted myself with the ground. Clasped my hands and let the rain fall. She started talking when she was able. I don't know if it was to me or some kind of monologue. It's been so long since I sat here last. Too long. It was always welcoming to me when I had both my parents. I don't know how I've managed to stay so near and yet feel so separated, disconnected. I am without now. I have nothing, and in its neglect and spite, it doesn't protect me from seeing my trespasses and inadequacies as a daughter. You're a bit unfair to yourself. I scooted farther onto the bench and closer to her. You know, after the party, Kelly asked me how it felt to have my secret put out there the way it was. I said good, for the reasons you'd probably presume, but also 'cause not much in my little world had to change in the end. But I was wrong. My entire life changed. I changed. It was easy in the beginning to wish it never happened to my family, but I realized that without those tough choices, I wouldn't have met Miss Gilleigh, Kelly, or you. Tragedies stink when you're in them, but I've learned that when you step back, you'll see that they can set you on the road to improvement. If you really feel this way when you look inside, change. It may be too late to be a better daughter, but there's still plenty of ways to be a better person. You're a wife, a mother, and someday you'll be a nan. Do right by the people you have, and your parents will be proud. I could see how red her eyes had gotten. She was going to cry again, but didn't want to. She bent down to collect herself and came back holding the urn that was next to her feet. She handled it for a while, giving a good look at its design, and then said, "It's time for goodbye." It was all very ceremonial. She walked to the shore and waited for the right breeze to carry the ashes. She dumped the urn, and I swear I heard Gilleigh laughing as they went every which way. After that, there wasn't much to be done. There wasn't much else to be done, but she stayed there. She held on to the empty vessel and took a moment for herself, I guess. There was no need to hurry. I wasn't going to interrupt her meditation, but I was afraid Lottie might, when she passed me with the box under her arm. "I have to let go of something I love, too," she said, looking up at her. She opened the box and put Andy's shell in the sand. The rumpus journey scared him, so he retracted himself. Lottie grabbed Gordana's hand and stepped back to give him room, joining everyone who came outside to watch. Little by little he re-emerged, 4 legs and a head. He had nothing but God's country in front of him, and boy, did he gallop for it. We all clapped and cheered, but none louder than Mom. She was happy to finally see him go, and everyone else was happy to see him free. He hit the water and was gone. Andy, the tiny turtle, returned to the wild. We lined the beach and took in the nature. Some of us probably recalled the memories we had out there, while others thought of memories we could have. Gordana seemed to have a special interest in the trees, with no animals or oddities to see per se. I didn't understand what she was observing, but there was no need to ask. Fixated on the sprawling wood, she satisfied my curiosity aloud. The leaves are changing color. Summer is over. The end. As years passed, which is kind of like my epilogue here, in case you're wondering. Kind of like a where are they now type thing. Gordana hasn't changed much. She's still got those deep pockets and is rotten with privilege. But every once in a while, when she doesn't have people to impress with her social status, I'll catch her smiling at me. Dad took the job at Gillespie's General Merchandise. He really fell in love with the simple work in serving the community. In fact, he loved it so much that when Mr. Gillespie decided to sell the business, he bought it. He kept the familiar, respected the name, as well as Duncan and Dell on his helping hands. Lottie grew so fast and changed a lot. But the one thing that stayed the same was her relationship with her piano. Thanks to Gilleigh's conditions, she practiced like it was religion. Getting better and better, she eventually turned a passion into a profession. Her career has taken her all over the world, playing everything from classical to jazz. Despite all the recording studios and concert halls, she says her favorite place to play is at home, where it all started with an old friend. As for me, I married that Gilleigh Thorogood girl, just like I knew I would. We ended up moving out of Ottersboro to start our new life together, and our family grew by 2 beautiful little girls. Fatherhood has kept me busy, but I still found time to write Babbitt stories. I even found and took a chance on a publisher that liked them as much as my daughters, and they became best-selling children's books. I can't say any of us were happy, though, and where we were living wasn't the best place to raise kids, so when Mom convinced Dad to give the Gillespie boys the store and slow down, if not retire, so they could do a bit of traveling, I moved my family back. Now, Kelly reads them books from Granddad's study. They have tea with Nan's set, and we have picnics on the loch. Oh, I should also mention that on the first day, the girls said they saw a mysterious white spot in the corner of their eye. And there you have it, guys. An emotional conclusion to yet another book, which leaves us with just one more hurdle to get to before we move on to something completely brand new. And this, to be honest, is really the main event. It's the entire reason why this move to YouTube happened. The entire reason why this Hatter Reads series even exists is so that we could eventually get to the release of my previously unreleased children's book, which is very, very exciting. And after months and months of work, 50-something videos in this playlist, we're finally there. So, as always, guys, I hope that you enjoyed this part of the project this origin story part, if you will. I hope you share it with those that you love, and I hope to see you back again when we reconvene for the next final and unreleased children's book. Until then, guys, as always, we'll see you later, and take care.